Good morning, it's Friday the 27th of January. This is the Phoenix Blue Update presented this morning by Tom Colley. Well, the end of the first week of Donald Trump as president, certainly been an interesting week. We'll go on and talk about that a little bit in a moment. Let's start with the news where we usually do. News through yesterday, we had the prelim GDP on the pound through at 0.6, which was ahead of forecast, so some nice positive data there. We had the Eurogroup meetings, but very little came out of that or heard from that. We had US unemployment claims coming in at 259. Ahead of a forecast of 247k. Again, not a big deal. This is a weekly figure and does not have the same significance as the non-farm payroll data that we'll see out Friday next week. Today we've got a Chinese bank holiday. And then the only red flag data for Friday today is the advanced GDP and core durable goods for the States. However, certainly the dollar appears dominated at the moment by political issues by Donald Trump. Today, Donald Trump meets with Theresa May, the British Prime Minister. One thing that I've mentioned before, and I think really everybody needs to be on top of, is Trump's Twitter feed. His mouthpiece last night or yesterday described the press as being the Trump administration's opposition. Therefore, it looks like Twitter's really the way they're communicating to sidestep the press. Now, Trump appears to be tweeting early in the morning US time and towards the end of the day US time, sort of summarising the day ahead and confirming what's happened through that day. Definitely worth keeping on top of, and based on what happened yesterday, probably advisable to stay away from markets that are affected by subject he's talking about. Mexico was a classic example yesterday. We saw a Twitter spat between Trump and the Mexican president, whereby Trump said if they weren't willing to discuss paying for his famous wall, there was little point in having a meeting, to which the Mexican president tweeted back, well, the meeting's off then. That resulted in a big reversal in the Mexican peso. I happen to be watching that chart. There was a nice setup on that this week that we've been watching. Not that we particularly trade the peso on an ongoing basis, but the way that the market simply reversed on a couple of tweets is quite possibly the way that certainly in the early days we're going to see this Trump administration affecting the markets. So be aware of that, be cautious about it, be cautious of the pound today. We've no idea what might be said, might not be said, and that really tends to summarise Trump. One thing that he did subsequently say after the meeting had been cancelled, if the Mexicans wouldn't pay for the wall, his comment was that they would potentially introduce or were considering introducing a 20% tax on all Mexican imports. Obviously, that had a further negative effect on the peso. And the truth is, his spokesman subsequently said that was maybe one of a number of options they were looking at. But 140 characters tends not to give you a chance to offer all the options that are being considered. So really, a word of caution there. We've had a volatile week in general, but those sort of things really are what we need to be bringing into our trading plans or our management of news events and what have you, in terms of learning that the way that this administration is going to work, certainly in the short term, or whilst the markets get used to how it works. So in due course it may not feel the need to react as instantly to those tweets as they may be perceived further down the line as not being, shall we say, accurate or factual. Okay, over to the charts themselves. The dollar index. The dollar turned around yesterday, had a nice bullish move here and taken out basically the downside from the rest of the week. We're now above this trend line here, so we are once again bullish the dollar. I mentioned the other day, and I am only medium-term bullish until we get to this 101.50 level here, which I see as a potential head and shoulders. If we get above that, then comfortable on the longer-term dollar strength, subject to news events or whatever. That trend line is reflected in most of the other markets. It's obviously got to break the other way on the yen chart here. Again, we'll be looking for a pullback into support at this level here to trade that to the long side. However, I don't see that necessarily as happening today intraday. It's the final Friday of the first month of the year. So I think caution merits caution there. We'll be looking for a daily close and then into the early part of last week, potentially a pullback to support before we see more long side in this market. Or conversely in the euro, more downside in this market where we can see exactly the same thing with trendline break, close below here, and we'll look for a pullback into resistance this time at the level of about 107.10. Over on the pound, well, we've seen pound strength this week. It looks like that's about to roll over again. We've got a trend line here that's clearer on the 4 hour. That's been broken. We'll be looking for a close below this 1.25 level here. Again, potentially to look to downside on dollar strength. As I've already mentioned, the meeting between Trump and May today means that we'll be out of this market today purely on the basis of uncertainty. If we go over and look to the Aussie there, again, we've got another trend line break here. However, similar to the pound, we'll be looking for a close below this 0.75 key level here. A break of that support to come back and test as resistance will give us downside on that dollar strength. So again, really the emphasis is let's wait and see the dollar strength play out a little further before our entries come into view. Over in gold, well, we've got a very, very clear risk off scenario. I'm sure you'll have read, if you're not actually watching the chart, that the Dow has moved above 20,000 significantly and stayed above 20,000 for the first time. All the other American stock exchanges plus the DAX are up. So we expect in a normal course of event that to be a risk-on scenario where money moves from the safe havens being the gold and the yen into higher risk assets being stocks, and that's exactly what we can see here. We've had a double top on the daily chart on gold. We've now broken below resistance on the neckline, and we'll be looking for a potential retest of that to take that back down to the downside on the basis that that risk-on scenario continues. One other thing to show you is we've shown you this all week, the platinum trade. Unfortunately, yesterday we were stopped out at break even. We'd had profits at resistance at this level here. Price came back. We'd already moved the stop to break even, and that took us out of the trade. Not the end of the world. We've made a small amount of profit. We've still got two opportunities here. We're either looking for a pullback back down to the original level we were trading from to take an opportunity again to the long side there, or if that doesn't happen, we also have the opportunity for a break of resistance above here, pull back, take that to the long side. This was a trade based on seasonality for, let's call it, the first quarter, certainly another 2 months or so, and either of those entries would warrant a target towards the highs over here. Obviously, as with all commodities, if we see dollar strength, it makes it hard work for rising commodities. So we need to be patient. We may need to wait for dollar pullbacks in order to see significant moves in this market. But we do, it's a market that we want to be in from the seasonal point of view. It's already to a certain extent proven itself. And if we can get in and just sit in, try to go through the swings based on dollar strength. Okay, guys, that's it for today. It's the end of that first week with Trump in charge. Very, very significant. What it seems to emphasise is it's even more important than ever to have your trading very, very nailed down, under control, have rules, techniques, etc., so that you're protecting your capital at all times and the risks that you're taking are measured. Now, we have a free trading event coming up on Thursday the 16th of February where you can find out exactly how Phoenix Blue address all those issues. You'll also be able to live trade alongside our top Phoenix Blue fund managers. If this is something you're interested in, that's Thursday the 16th of February in London. Please either go through the contacts page on the Phoenix Blue website or simply email for further information, joining instructions, etc. at info@phoenixblue.co.uk. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak to you on Monday. Take care.